What are the latest updates on Secure Act 2.0? That's what we'll be talking about in today's video. After the bipartisan Secure Act 1.0 was passed into law in December 2019, politicians on both sides of the aisle began working on follow-up bills that would further reform the retirement system. This collection of bills came to be known as Secure Act 2.0. Various bills have been penned by both chambers of Congress, and at some point a final bill will need to be reconciled before it can be voted on and ultimately passed into law. If you recall, legislators were pursuing a passage of Secure Act 2.0 with relative fervor right up until Joe Biden came out with his Build Back Better plan in 2022. Then that huge piece of legislation basically sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Well, two things happened that put the Secure Act 2.0 back on the front burner again. First, Joe Biden failed to pass his Build Back Better plan, and second, Republicans wrested back control of the House at the midterm elections, effectively turning Joe Biden into a lame duck for the last 2 years of his term. So now that Congress is deadlocked, they're going to be looking in all quarters for opportunities to pass bipartisan legislation. And the Secure Act 2.0 is, in fact, one of those pieces of legislation that enjoys broad bipartisan support. Now, let's be clear, the current bill still has a long way to go before getting enacted into law, but Senior Vice President for Government Relations at the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, Dian Boyle, recently said that she's optimistic that it'll get passed in 2022. Other politicians on both sides of the aisle echo this sentiment. So, if this before the end of the 2022 prognostication is correct, that's great news for Americans who want to save more money and shield themselves from the impact of higher taxes. Let's take a look at some of the major highlights of the most recent version of the bill passed in the House. The biggest highlights affect the age for required minimum distributions and qualified retirement plans. Secure Act 1.0 moved the first RMD date from age 70 and a half to age 72. The Secure Act 2.0 would push that out to age 75 based on the following timeline. RMDs begin at 73 starting in 2023 for those turning 72 after 12/31/2022 and 73 before 1/1/2030. RMDs begin at 74 starting in 2024 for those turning 73 after 12/31/2029 and 74 before 1/1/2033. RMDs begin at 75 starting in 2033 for those turning 74 after 12/31/2032. In addition to a massive restructuring of RMDs, the House's bill proposed several other changes to encourage retirement plan participation. Under current law, if you do not take your RMD in the right amounts and at the prescribed age, you pay a 50% excise tax. Under the Secure Act 2.0, this penalty gets reduced to 25%. Further, if you later get it corrected, they lower that penalty all the way down to 10%. Next, the House version of the law allows for individuals over a certain age to make catch-up contributions to their qualified retirement plans. The current 2022 catch-up amount of $6,500 for 401ks and 403bs would stay the same for those age 50 to 61, but would increase to $10,000 for those ages 62 to 64 starting in 2024. Furthermore, the present IRA catch-up contribution for those age 50 and above is $1,000. That, along with other catch-up provisions, would now be indexed to inflation starting in 2023. The catch-up limit for simple plans would rise from $3,000 to $5,000, and that too would be indexed to keep up with inflation. The next change has to do with employees who are making student loan payments. It allows employers to contribute to an employee's retirement plan based on the amount of the employee's student loan payments. For example, let's say an employee is making $5,000 annual payment to their student loans. This would allow the employer to put a $5,000 match into that employee's account. Some employers have already been doing this, but others have shied away from it because it has yet to be codified into law. This provision of Secure Act 2.0 makes it law. Next, let's tackle matching Roth contributions. Starting in 2023, employer matching contributions could be deposited into the Roth portion of your 401k. Currently, employer match contributions must be deposited into the tax-deferred portion of your 401k. This can be problematic for investors who believe that their individual tax rate at distribution will be dramatically higher than it is today. Keep in mind that any after-tax match on the part of the employer would result in a 1099 for that income. The Senate's version of Secure Act 2.0 is called the Rise and Shine Act and has a few interesting proposals of its own. The first one calls for the creation of an employer-sponsored emergency savings account, ESA. This provision would allow employees to make pre-tax contributions to their accounts and employers to match those contributions up to $2,500. Employees could then withdraw from their ESA without penalty at any time. The Senate has a different measure called the Enhancing American Retirement Now Earn Act, which would allow employees to withdraw up to $1,000 from their employer-sponsored retirement plan without any penalty at all. Now, before Secure Act 2.0 gets approved, all of these bills will have to be reconciled and consolidated into one final bill. And that'll then need to be voted on by both chambers of Congress before being signed into law by the president. Again, several politicians have expressed the desire to get this accomplished before 2022 draws to a close. That means that these changes could potentially be enacted as soon as 2023. So what does all this mean for your situation? I don't think that the changes in RMD rules will affect most Americans. After all, only 20% of Americans are not dependent on those RMDs to meet their lifestyle needs in retirement. Most retirees will be withdrawing more than their required minimum distribution amount, regardless of their age. I think the biggest change that will affect retirees is the ability to have employer matches allocated directly to the tax-free portion of their 401k or 403b. Employees will pay tax on those matches, but they'll do so at historically low tax rates. If you're looking for help building a plan that helps you take advantage of the anticipated changes that will come with Secure Act 2.0, head on over to davemcknight.com and click on the Work with David button. I'm happy to lend a hand. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to all of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.